Earthlings, and welcome back to another week of more Reddit reactions. I know this is not my usual introduction, but today I just feel like winging it, so I am gonna be winging it. But before I start winging this section, please check out my merch store. And with that being said, let's get into our Reddit reactions. So I don't know what to expect from this week. So this week is going to be surprising for all of us. But yeah. Oh, and also, guys, don't forget to put in your orders for drinks and food so that you guys can, and then you guys can eat and drink while listening to some Reddit reactions. Okay, so this week from Tales from Retail by Skippy8898. I provided a full quote and they still messed up the order. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, let's get into it. Customer wanted a quote on 3 items. On each item, we have 3 different brands they can choose from. Think how you can buy a battery from Duracell, Energizer, or some other brand. So I sent over pictures, pricing, and availability via email. Despite having all the information in front of them, they still messed up the order. Item number 1 had the wrong size listed, which is not only discontinued and is from a completely different brand than they wanted, I didn't even put on the quote. Item number 2 was listed on the order twice, but with different quantities. And item number 3 was also listed on the order as well as different quantities. This one also had an additional wrinkle where one line was from one brand, the other from a different brand, and the one brand is way more expensive. So it doesn't make much sense to order that one. Hey, this I I'm confused. I don't know how I would have. Wait, okay, hold on. Let me just put my retail brain on or my retail hats on and just trying to figure out how I'm gonna sort this. Okay, so we got our retail hats on, and now we can, use our brains to think this one through. Okay, so what I would have done, oh my word, let's read the story again and actually think for a second. Customer wanted a quote on 3 items. On each item, we have different brands they can choose from. Think how you can buy a battery from Duracell, Energizer, or some other brand. Okay, so I sent over pictures, pricing, and availability via email. Despite having all the information in front of them, they still messed up the order. Okay, item number 1 had the wrong size listed, which is not only discontinued and is from a completely different brand than they wanted. I didn't even put that on the quote. Item number 2 was listed on the order twice but with different quantities. Item number 3 was also listed on the order as well as different quantities. This one also had an additional wrinkle where one line was from one brand, the other from a different brand. The one brand is way more expensive, so it doesn't make much sense to order that one. Okay, so what I would have done and how I would have handled the situation, I would have phoned this place where I send these quotes to, and I would have spoken to them like you would a first grader or explain things to them like you would a first grader. And I'm like, okay, and then like slowly talk through all of it with them. So I would have phoned them and be like, hi. this is so and so from this store, and so regarding item number one, this is what you guys did, and this is what I asked for. So I'm gonna talk you through each and every single item, making sure that you do your jobs correctly and send me the proper quote. And also, I would send an email or I would get into contact with who's ever in charge and be like, hey, listen, your people are messing up. This is what I sent them. This is what they sent me. um can we maybe, I don't know, retrain your staff or actually get people in to know exactly what they're doing? I would rate this like a 3 out of 5 because like I said, for me a 5 out of 5 is when somebody gets hurt, when there's violence, when there's, like possible job of loss, destruction to property, like really, really bad. 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5 is like somewhere in between that. And then 3 out of 5 is just like when somebody doesn't know how to do their jobs and you have to explain their jobs to them. So yeah, 2 out of 5, eh, it's okay, not too bad, could be better. 1 out of 5, it's completely wholesome and I love it. So if you guys are wanting to know my rating system, there you go. So this falls under the 3 out of 5 category. That's how I would have handled the situation. I'm wondering, how would you have handled the situation? I think I'm gonna upgrade this hat. I don't think I'm gonna change the color and then just put retail on the hat. So just like the word retail on the hat. But yeah, guys, that is, I provided a full quote and they still messed up the order. Thank you, Skippy, for sharing. Next, we have Charms. Lucky Charm. I love their stories. I don't know if it's a he or she, so I'm gonna say there. Customer thinks that because he shops at our store so much, he should be able to shop past the time we close. Oh no. No, no, no. Okay, I might change my mind after this, but I'm already rating this a 3 out of 5. Can it get better? Can it get worse? I don't know. Unlucky charm, unlucky charm. Please don't disappoint. We've all had those customers who come in pretty close to closing to shop. I'm also pretty sure we've had those people who think that they have all the time in the world to shop just because they made it in the store before doors shut. We've had a few of those. I'll tell you stories, okay? However, that is not the case. If you're a couple minutes past closing, that's usually fine, but it's not when you plan to spend another 15 minutes or so longer. So, around 5 minutes to closing time at the store I work at, there was still one customer shopping with a grocery cart. He is a regular customer. The 15 minutes and 5 minute closing announcements had been done. When we do the 5 minute announcements, we politely ask that all the customers still in the store bring up their items so that we can finish up our closing procedures and go home. Usually, us cashiers aren't too bad about the late shoppers who are cutting it close. But it was really annoying to see someone with a full cart still strolling around. The time we closed came around and we had to do a "we're officially closed. Please bring your items up to the front" kind of announcement, and this guy kept on walking. The people in the grocery reminded him that we were closing and that he could come back tomorrow to get the last things he was missing, but he ignored them. I would have called security to remove this man. There's my reaction to this. Um, Eventually, my coworker until told the man that we were closed and that she would bring his groceries through. He turned to her and said, "Do you know how much money I spend at your store? Just because you spend a lot of money at a store does not give you privilege. I'm sorry. People are tired. People want to go home. It doesn't matter how much money you spend at the store. People still need to go home and take care of their families, take care of their households, take care of things that they don't that they can't take care of while they're at work. People still need to go home, make food, clean, most probably do washing, and still get enough sleep, wake up the next morning, and still deal with shitty customers. Like, let them go home, let them breathe. And by the end of the day, guys, I can tell you, working in retail, your feet are killing you. Like, you look forward to closing time after, especially after a busy day, because your feet are so sore, and all you want to do is sit and put your feet up because of how sore and tired your feet are. You want to let your dogs out and let them free and let them breathe. I'm just saying, stop thinking that you've got privilege just because you spend a lot of money at a store. A lot of people spend money at a lot of stores. For example, here in South Africa, we've got Checkers. I prefer shopping at Checkers, but just because I do most of my shopping at Checkers does not give me the right to be like, hey, do you know how much money I spend here? You're gonna close when I tell you to close. That is not how it works. You are not the CEO. You are not the manager. You do not come up with the rules and regulations for that store. Stop it. Oh my word, this is making me so mad. She replied, I understand, but we are still closed and we have to ask you to pay for the groceries. You have now and come back tomorrow. Thankfully, the man finally went through her till, though he was still pretty annoyed that he had been asked to leave. He complained a bit more, but my co-worker kindly explained that when we're closed, we have a couple of more things that need to be done after all. The customers are out and we, unfortunately, won't be paid overtime. That's another thing. I remember working in retail. It wasn't just like you wanted to go home and put your feet up, okay? I just remember how sore my feet were because we were on our feet for like 10 hours a day and we weren't allowed to sit in the store. Like, even if we were behind the counters, we weren't allowed to sit. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's just how it was. So the only times we were allowed to sit was when we were on our break or if we were in the back dealing with stock or orders or whatever the case may be, but we weren't allowed to sit. We weren't allowed to sit. We would get into trouble if we sat. But besides that, you have to deal with the cash up because you couldn't keep, we weren't allowed to keep cash in the register. So you had to do the end of day sales. You had to like work all that out and do all of that. We had to clean the stores, make sure that like the floors were cleaned, everything was dusted and wiped, and the counter was clean from the day. So whatever pens we were using, and we had our own personal notebooks for customer orders. We had to make sure all of that was packed away. We had to make sure of so many things afterwards. It wasn't just, us locking up. It was, and you don't get paid overtime when you're working in retail. You don't. So if a customer stays there up until a certain time, we don't get paid for that. So you as a customer, please keep that in mind. We don't get paid overtime. We've got extra work to do when we close. So closing up doesn't mean we get to pack our bags and go home. No, closing up means there's end of the day work that we still have to do. Make sure that everything, all the shelves are neat. If customers messed up somewhere, that all that mess is cleaned. If products were put on the wrong shelves, that we have to go and put back on the right shelves, which does take time. Plus, we have to do cash up at the end of the day, and that can also take time. And then we have to put it in a safe. So, it's not just, we need to go home. There's a lot of things. So if you are shopping and because you spend so much money at a store and you think you are privileged now to tell people who work there how to do their jobs, stop it, because you don't know what's going on. Like I've said so many times before, until you've worked in retail, you do not know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know how much shits we have to deal with when it comes to retails, when it comes to customers, when it comes to head office, when it comes to this. You don't know how much we have to deal with. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes. You don't know all the rules and regulations and laws that goes with that shop. Every retail store is different. You don't know what goes on behind the scenes, so don't pretend like you do, and don't pretend like you have authority over the people who work there, because you don't. We appreciate your service, yes. We care about our customers, yes. But don't be an asshat and think that you run the place and you can tell people what to do, what they can and cannot do, because you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. You do not know the in and outs of that store. You just know what's going on the floor because you shop there so many times. That's all I have to say on the subject, and I know I'm going to repeat this so many more times. I know. But with that being said, I will rate this a 3 out of 5 because the customer is being unreasonable, and to be snippy at the people who are working in retail because they not allowed to do certain things, cut it out. It's not them being difficult. It's them like, no, we can't allow this to happen because that will upset our bosses or our managers or whatever. And they don't want to get into trouble. They don't want to get a warning. And they do want to get paid for the work that they do, for the amount of hours that is required of them. They don't get paid overtime. We really, really do not get paid overtime. So, yeah, that being said, I hope you guys do like take this into consideration. And I really do hope that these stories help you as a retailer and as a customer. And I would really, really love to see the comments, your um was it your views and your experiences in retail, both as a person working in retail and as a customer who's never worked in retail. What have you learned? What haven't you learned? And stuff like that. I really, really would like to get this conversation going. But anyway, moving on to our third story by Chibi. Chibi Chulala. Okay, I'm just gonna say Chibi. This has no flavor and self-imposed discounts. Oh, this is a long one. Okay, let me upvote it now. Okay. I own a small game store cafe in a small town. I'm the only one within 45 miles, but there's still competition from further stores as people out here are used to driving long distances already. I have lots of stories from the time I opened, and I've learned a lot. Also, while the story does involve coffee, my primary business is retail. This day was fairly quiet. We had a couple shoppers here and there, but otherwise not so busy. My husband was helping me this day, and while he does his best, I'm still more adept at making coffees. This didn't matter here though. Generally, when people come in and order coffee first thing, we would get it made and give it to them while they continue to shop. Catching them out right away was something that I, at the time, concluded would create more hesitation in additional purchases. No one wants to stand at the counter and scan their cards multiple times in a row. I've since learned that people actually don't mind that, and frequently, when they're here for long hours, it's as though it's a competition to see how many times they can scan their cards for a couple dollars at a time in one visit. One regular's personal best was 9. We've begun running tabs. Okay, so far so good. But what I will say about this, me as a customer, I don't like swiping my card multiple times at a store because of bank charges. So I'd rather get everything that I need from said store and swipe it once at the store. And then if I need to go do something at a different store, then I would rather get everything that I need there instead of swiping my card multiple times in the same store in the time that I'm there. Like, rather just get everything that I need. And if I forget something, I forget something. I'd rather just go home and get it the next month if I can. Like, I don't like swiping my card multiple times at the same store within the same day. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, so yeah, I've got the same mindset as this person about that. A couple came in, first time visitors though. I wouldn't call them customers. They each ordered coffees, frappes, I think. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I've never had a frappe before. Vanilla. They continued to browse, so my husband just jumped on making them while I tidied up around him. They received their drinks and sat down in our comfy chairs to chat. Then the man brings his back. No flavor, he said. Weird considering I was sure I'd seen him put just as much vanilla as I normally do. And I had tasted it before, made the same way, and thought it was fantastic. But I added more, so at this point the drink had probably 10 pumps of vanilla in it. Blended back up and gave it to him. I was feeling particularly anxious about the screw up. We were a fairly new shop at the time and still learning the ropes, trying to entice customers to come back or to visit in the first place. How could we have screwed up something so simple? Surely these people wouldn't be coming back, and I had failed. They thanked me and continued to chat, shopping around a bit, enthused about how the coffee finally had enough flavor, and we got busy doing other things, helping someone else out at the counter, cleaning, etc., discussing how we'd made the coffee and how we could do better. Then they left. No transaction had been rung up. They've never approached the counter to attempt to pay. No, they simply left, over vanillaed frappes and all. I blame this partially on myself as I hadn't stopped them on the way out, partially on my husband as we had handled the order, and partially on the two people who complained about the flavor of the coffee and left without paying. I've never seen them again. Lesson learned, new visitors always pay for the coffees up front. Also, some people truly do have a dead taste buds. Okay, so they just wanted free coffee, and I think they were complaining about the flavor. And this is just my opinion based off what they said, because I've seen people who do smoke a lot, and my mom is one of those people who used to smoke a lot, my uncle as well, that they would add more oil, more salt, or more things than what I would normally add because their taste buds aren't as what it used to be, because nicotine does destroy your taste buds, and so does alcohol and drugs and all of that. Um, so they would like add the food would be a lot more oily, and they would like pour half a bottle of sauce on their food just so they can get the flavor. And it would literally make me sick. Like, I would literally throw up every time my uncle had to cook because of how much he put in the food just so he could taste the food. So, yeah, it could be that, but also them getting a free drink out of you. I understand that you were new, but from reading these retail stories and from hearing other people running businesses and lessons that they've learned, I will always make sure that, like, I will be like, where do you think you need to pay for that? And if they try and lie to me saying, oh, I have paid for it, I'm like, no, you didn't. I've been watching you the entire time because, like I said, the way I want my store to be set up is you can see everything from the counter. So you can see you can see all two walls and like maybe one or two displays on the floor, but you are still able to see everything. There will be no hiding spots in my store. No. So yeah, like I don't know what to think of this. Honestly, if I was in their shoes, I would have stopped them like, I'm sorry, you haven't paid for your drinks yet. And and if it would have turned into a scene, then I would have called security and be like, hey, listen, they stealing, they haven't paid. They said they've paid, but they haven't. Um, can Either they need to return this stuff or they need to pay for this stuff. So I would most probably deal with some, especially like this. I would have stopped them. But when you're opening and you are still new, you are going to be anxious, you are going to be nervous and stuff like that, and you are going to learn new lessons. and you are going to mess up. So on the customer side, because they stole, that's like a 5 out of 5. I don't care if it's a $1 pen. Stealing is stealing. I don't care. You don't steal from small businesses. But from the retailer side or business ownership side, I would rate that a 3 out of 5, because actually not. I also rate that a 4 out of 5, because they should have been more aware of their surroundings. But it's very difficult to judge if you have not been in their shoes, because they, like I said, when you're opening something new, or when you're starting something new, it's very difficult to have what's around you, because you worried about everything from A to Z, and you second guessing yourself, and you questioning everything. So it's very difficult to keep your head on your shoulders and be like, hey, listen, you didn't pay for this. But yeah, with that being said, I'm glad this person learned from that experience, and it's easy for us to say, hey, this is how we would have dealt with the situation. But if we do have any, small business owners or local business owners, what lessons have you learned when you first opened up, and what was going through your mind, and what were you stressed about? What were you anxious about? Were you questioning everything? I would love to hear your stories. But with that being said, let's move on to story number 4, and let's see what the difficult project 2835 has to say. Ooh, we got a short story. I'm so embarrassed. Oh no. I had my first rude customer that really dug under my skin. Usually I go with the flow and don't care if the customer is rude. They were doing a return of a lot of stuff, multiple receipts, and all purchased with a card that was closed. We put the returns on gift cards for them, but one item just wouldn't work. It would only go back to the original tender. To make a long story short, they kept saying I was doing a poor job, demanded to see multiple managers, and said I was an idiot. I've been at this job for a little over 3 weeks, and to add the cherry on top, the coworker who was trying to help me yelled at one of my managers, saying that they lost 3 sales because I needed help. I tried so hard to stop myself from crying, but the waterworks started. I just want to crawl into a hole and die. Okay, wait, hold on. Okay, if the customer is rude, they were doing a return, a lot of multiple receipts, and all purchased with card. We put the returns gift, but one item just wouldn't work. It would only go back to the original tender. To make a long story short, they kept saying I was doing a poor job, demanded to see multiple managers, and said I was an idiot. And to add the cherry on top, the coworker who was trying to help me yelled at my managers. And okay, if you're new at a job, I think you as a coworker should have more grace and more patience when somebody is dealing with something like this for the first time. I'm sorry, you're not going to learn everything overnight, and let alone you're not going to learn everything within 3 weeks. That's why stores, at least here in South Africa, I'm not sure about the rest of the world, here they give you a 3-month probation to see how well you do in the store and how much you learn while working at that company or at that business or at the store, whatever the case may be. You start off with a 3-month probation. After those 3 months are up, then they decide if they're going to keep you or not, based off your performance and how well you do in the job. So yeah, it's not just about getting past the interview, but after 3 weeks, you could have a little bit more grace, a little bit more patience, especially if it's a new experience or something that this person has not dealt with before. You've got nothing to be embarrassed about. You've got nothing to cry about. And if somebody else is getting pissy over over something like this, then they forgot at one stage in their life they were new, that they had to go through some difficult times, and they needed help. You don't ever forget that you also started from the same place, or were they just given that position, but you should have more grace and more patience. And the customer calling you an idiot, your manager should have stepped in and be like, you don't talk to my staff like that. She's still new, or he's still new, and they're still learning. This is the first time that they had to deal with a return this big. with multiple receipts, and this item is for some other reason just doesn't want to our system just doesn't want to accept this item, and she is trying her best. But calling somebody an idiot because they have to deal with your mess when they're trying their best, I would ban you from the store. Honestly, I would ban you. That's how I would have been like, okay, you calling my customer an idiot? We've got a branch here. You can return it there. Goodbye, you're banned from the store. It's as simple as that. I do not need customers. Retailers do not need customers to be this rude and this impatient and this mean when we are doing our best, especially if you're new there, especially if you're new. A little bit of grace, a little bit of patience, and a little bit of empathy goes a long way. I'm telling you guys now, it doesn't cost a thing to be kind. If other people want to take your kindness as an offense, that says more about them than what it does about you. But it does not cost a thing to be kind. It does not cost a thing to be human towards somebody else. Honestly, I can't with rude customers, and because this is bullying. Honestly, this is bullying. Not only is this person getting bullied by her customer, she's also getting bullied by her coworker, and the manager is not even stepping up to stand up for this person. So because of that, I'm gonna rate this a 5 out of 5 because I'm sorry, you did not deserve this. Anybody who goes through this, you do not deserve to be treated like that. And honestly, I would have been the type of person to stand up and say something. Honestly, I would. Because I've become a lot more outspoken in recent years than what I've been before. I'm no longer the shy, quiet girl that I used to be because of friends that I've had and because of retail and because of really bad things happening in my life. I do not have the same patience that I used to have. I'm not going to keep quiet anymore when something isn't right. Like, I'm a lot more outspoken than what I used to be, and I'm a lot more than what I used to be. I'm guessing that's why I made my VTuber model a bear. Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, with that being said, let's move on to the um I'm gonna keep this one open because I want to give some words. I know this was 3 months ago, but I want to put some words of encouragement in there, and yeah. But let's move on to the fifth and final story by Arts Fanatic 809. I won't break safety protocol just because you're in a hurry. Oof. Oh, I love this title. This title is making me all giddy. I work as a merchandiser in a big box store. I delegate sales, products, knowledge, questions to whatever departments I'm working in that day. If it's an inventory related thing, I can usually help. A customer approached me while I was working on clearance and asked if I could get something down for him. When I asked him to point it out, he was rather brief and impatient, even offering to get on the ladder and get it himself. Definitely a safety violation. I can understand that. What he was requesting was not only high, but also had a ton on other merchandise stacked on top. Even if I was 10 feet tall, it would have been nearly impossible to get it down from the top rung without pulling it out directly and having all these other boxes going flying everywhere. I turned to him and told him that it wasn't happening without a machine. We use power lifts for things that are too high, big, or bulky to get down with a ladder. He complained to his friend that it was ridiculous that I needed power equipment for something so simple. I didn't care. I'd fallen off a ladder before at a past job, and I was surely not risking it happening for someone this rude. A couple minutes later, I returned to the aisle driving the machine. Unsurprisingly, they were gone, probably to go to a competitor. I decided that since I was there, I'd downstock the item anyway. If they returned, it would be there. If not, someone nicer could buy it. My supervisor said I made a good call and thanked me for keeping myself and others safe. Rate this a 1 out of 5 because nobody got hurt. The customer was a little impatient, and the way this person dealt with it was, perfect. We had a similar situation because we had books on high shelves. Um, we had to stop the customer from grabbing a ladder and climbing up the ladder to get the books. So we had literally had to stop the customer and be like, oh, the customer was like, it's fine, I can get it myself. And it's like, unfortunately, we cannot allow customers to climb up the ladders. It is a safety violation. Customers aren't allowed to use our ladders. They might think it's ridiculous. And we're not saying, hey, listen, you're not stable enough to climb up a ladder. You are. You most likely are. You most probably use ladders to get to top cupboards all the time in your home. But when you are running a store or when you are working at a store in retail, we are not allowed, our customers are not allowed to climb up these ladders. But yeah, I am so happy that this ended on a very good note. And with that being said, I hope you guys do enjoy this content. And if you do, like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to share. But yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Until next week, bye, my couplings.